Okay, we shall review this VOD. Okay, so with positions like this, essentially you can go into the backline as Genji, but you have to be more to make sure you get back to you're able to get back to your team. So since your team is right there, you can get back to your team. If they were playing at like the actual choke, however, you would not want to take this position. If you really wanted to go to the backline, you could probably go up these stairs, and then to the right there's a spot where you might be able to play. Um, but let's see what you do. Because I think initially you start farming tanks, which so one of the benefits of this position is you can get some scouting. It's good to check that because there could be a widow there. So he's no hook, so you can kind of you don't have to like leave immediately. So you just kind of essentially so they have a Zen, right? So you want to get close to that guy. Like the main purpose of Genji nowadays is to bully Zenyatta. So like you want to like essentially by you throwing your shurikens, they see you now and you can't fight the Zen close. So you get some ult off of it. That I don't really think is your fault. That's, yeah, he kind of throws a little bit there. That's fine. But with there, you get your position seen, and then they're able to remove you. Is basically the main principle. Like, by whatever means, it's like if these players had better aim and like better game sense, he probably wouldn't have thrown his hook like right off the bat into a shield, I guess, and then somebody would have been able to shut you down basically in higher elos. But if you had been a bit sneaker about it, you probably could have gone and pick up on the vision. Generally, so I can't hear your comms in this video, but, so I think you're in quick play, which is not ideal for a VOD. Generally, when you do, actually, are you in comp or no? Does it say, are you on just defense the whole time? Yeah, I think you are. Okay. So, in VODs, just I guess for future reference, send comp games rather than quick play games because it's gonna match you more similarly to players of your elo or at least your enemies. Whereas this, you can just get like either like, I think you said you were like around like gold or silver or something. Like you could get like from there you get like diamonds or you could get like bronzes. Whereas and at the very least, if you're in rank, getting silver and like gold for the most part. So when you wake people up, try to get your teammates to actually help you out with it. Like especially if you're in comp, and also do say a countdown as well. So like waking hog in 3, 2, 1, and then you wake them up. Okay, so something to generally people profile incorrectly when they're playing this game. They'll just say like, "Oh, player X is good, so we have to acknowledge his arbitrarily goodness," which is not an effective way to do this. But an effective way to profile is like so. You've seen this Reinhardt really likes to pin, so I would just basically just make a mental note of that and basically say if he is there and he has his pin, he's subject to pin you. So he's low health, so you can dive him. That's fine. Um, I don't know if the hog used hook. Depending on whether or not the hog used hook, you can let me. So what do you have here? So you have an Anna. So you staying in the backline after you get the Reinhardt is really dangerous. Basically, players with better aim would be able to shut you down a lot more. You can do it, however, if you're in the LOS of your Anna. So I guess the biggest problem here is you're. Let me show you. So here, actually, I'm just gonna rewind it. So you're here, and then you get behind the Reinhardt shield. So you have to be careful right here, because if the Anna tries to shoot you, she's just going to hit the Reinhardt shield, and you're not going to get a healing. So, but then you kill the Reinhardt, and then that's fine. So you've opened up the choke, and now the Anna can see you. I'm hoping you don't use this. So, with the Swift Strike, you want to... I'll talk about that in a second, but mainly the biggest thing is you go behind this wall. You don't need to do that. You can just stay right there, and then your Ana can kill you. But you go behind this wall, and it's like you don't really get any positional advantage at all, and in fact, you actually lose positional advantage because your Ana can't hit you. But regarding this Swift Strike, you don't want to use your Swift Strike as the first like you want to use it to kill the enemy. You don't want to use it to damage the enemy and then kill them with your shurikens. You want to damage with the shurikens and then kill with the swift strike. And the reason for that is because if you, by the fact that you've used your swift strike, you've lost your escape. So like no matter at which point in the duel you use your swift strike, you have to deal 150 damage with your shurikens, and then 50 damage with the swift strike to deal 200 damage. So it's like you using the swift strike in the middle of this doesn't help you deal 150 damage to begin with. And actually, I'm gonna launch my Overwatch because you might have actually killed him if you'd done. I'm gonna go over just the Genji combos real quick, just so you're aware of what they are. This game's taking forever to launch, bro. Some of these car blinkers are flashing like their hazard lights are in my door's window. Doesn't make any sense. Whatever, bro. Okay, here we go. Okay. Thank you for reporting. Whatever. Okay, now to the long-awaited Genji combo. So, regarding your strikes, there is there's close range combo, medium range combo, and long range combo. Close range is just swift strike. Generally, when you do it, if you double jump and then do it, it's good because you see. Look, I have access to their head now. See here, I'm shorter than the bot, so I can kind of see. I was kind of aiming at his head, but I was a little bit low, so his chest first because it was blocking. But if I'm above, then I can get the headshots. With that particular combo. But you have to be careful when double jumping, mainly against the sniper matchups, because essentially if you're jumping and you're falling, the only place for you to go is down. And then there's a point at the very top of your jump where you're like literally not moving at all, or you're moving very slowly, and it's an easy shot for snipers generally. So you have to be careful with just double jumping over and over again. You can double jump to like quick stuff, like if I'm gonna put spots back there, I can double jump, because like regarding crosshair placement, their crosshair placement's gonna be like here, expecting me to come out here. But if I jump here, I can kind of juke their crosshair placement, and then I have to do like a flick upwards to actually hit me. Then there's the medium range combo, which this is the most powerful and also the most underrated combo in Genji's kit. You swift strike the feet, and then you jump and you right click melee after that, so it looks like that. And also while you're holding your swift strike key, also be holding right click. I messed that one up a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna go on this. Like that. So that's the combo. And then the last one is the long range combo, which is left quick swift strike, and then you might have to do a 180 depending on where they're at, but left click swift strike melee, like that, and then it gets them further. So basically, when you were doing the Zen, if you were gonna use your swift strike, you might have been able to finish them off. Like, so you're gonna like him kind of low. You might have been able to right click melee. Even if it was to the body, you probably could have killed him. Regarding deflect, generally whenever you use deflect, you want to put a right click deflect. It's gonna increase your damage per second, basically, or damage per minute. It's your overall damage, basically. And if you do manage to successfully deflect damage, there's a combo you can do with it. So also use your right click deflect, swift strike, 180 melee, and that's another one shot combo. So you. So those are the. There's some other stuff with the blade, but I'll see if we actually need to talk about that regarding the video. Yeah, so you being here makes it pretty hard for your healers because your Mercy can Guardian Angel to you and your Ana can't see you. So when you need healing, you need to actually be in a position where your healers can actually get to you. And that's gonna depend on like what healers you have. Like if you had a Baptiste, he might like be able to splash damage you and get some healing on you. But you don't have such Baptiste, so okay, this is fine. The Bastion is just bad. Yeah, higher elo players are gonna become more difficult than that Bastion. Actually, let me rewatch this. So what was going on? You won the team fight. Your hog gets hooked. Yeah. So you taking this flank hurts your awareness a little bit. Um, like flanks aren't always necessarily bad, but so let's take. Let me just show you how long this actually takes to flank. So you're here, you do the blade, and then the maze here. You have to switch back out. That's fine. Then an enemy Reinhardt, first of all, is literally 180 degrees behind you, and you miss that. So yeah, like that Reinhardt being there is like one big for your ult charge, two big for the fact that it can kill your backline. So we start the flank at I'll just call it 2 minutes and 1 second because I think that was the point at which the Roadhog popped up. So, okay, so you're here. So that's fine. I figured you were going to go all the way around. So either way, you going around here took 10 seconds, which is 10 seconds you could have spent, well, I guess 9 seconds, but it's 9 seconds you could have spent shooting the enemy. Like if you were back here with your teammates, you could have just already been building your ult. Yeah, so you being close to Mei is really not good for you. As Genji, yeah, so essentially, yeah, so you're going to want to play further away. Because like you can essentially build your ult still while you're far away. You don't necessarily have to be like close. Yeah, it's almost messed up in.
Target neutralized.
One thing with blades, hopefully I actually have blade. Okay, it is. So, when you blade somebody, actually I'm gonna go to MS Paint. I'm gonna turn my audio off. Okay. Where's a, here we go. So say, actually I don't like that. Say you're just on like a flat surface, right, like this. And then there's whatever. There's you right here as Genji, and then there's like an enemy right here. So you have to swift strike this area. So depending on how far away they are, so it's like, what is this angle really? It's like a 10-degree angle, and what margin do you have for error? Like this is, if you're off by like, I don't know how much this would be. I drew the angle wrong, so it would be, no, actually that would just be correct. So if you're off by like, so this would be another 10-degree angle theoretically. So then if you're off by 10 degrees, if you don't double jump, then you're subject to go there, or if you go like another 10 degrees, you only get half the distance. So whether or not you hit the enemy's feet and get close to them with your blade is subject to 10 degrees if you do not double jump. However, if you do double jump, so actually I wanted that. No, I did not. Okay, whatever, that's fine. So let me erase this and show you more like if you double jump, the difference. So if you're here, you need to go 45 degrees to hit them. So this is more like a 45-degree angle. Whereas if you miss by 45 degrees and you just go straight down, or if you miss by 45 degrees, you go there. But the other was the difference between missing by 10 degrees. So this essentially gives you a lot more margin for error when you blade. So if you're going to swift strike somebody, double jump beforehand if you get the opportunity. And so let me rewatch this blade real quick. My cat is meowing so much. Yeah, so there you, and in my opinion, you wouldn't have had the chance to double jump there. You could have just like double jumped and you would be a little bit closer. What actually happened? Let me watch this. So he's already low. You miss. So you basically you miss one of your strikes because of you didn't double jump. But that's fine anyway. You managed to pick it up. You managed to get the Lucio and the Zen. So. Yeah, that guy just shoot and like, essentially just, you're not really in like a position to like attack the backline. If you wanted to attack the backline, then first of all, you shouldn't be exposing yourself at all. You should just be going like more left a little bit and basically to the point where the Reinhardt wouldn't be able to see you. But now that he can see you, just like shoot at him. He's not holding his shield. Okay, that's fine. Actually, I don't know. I'm gonna rewatch this because like if you're, I don't really see the point in like that. Like so, if you're here, just be shooting the enemy. Like it's like since you have a cross angle here, I'm gonna draw this in MS Paint. So the enemy Reinhardt being there, you have their Reinhardt, and you have his shield, and then you have your team. So your team's gonna shoot at him. So since your team is shooting at him, he has to hold his shield this way, and since you were behind him, you essentially get to just throw your shurikens at him for free. But if he wanted to block your shurikens, he would have to not block your team, and then your team would get free poke on him. So essentially, you have a free cross angle, and you just kind of once again this is time you could be spending throwing shurikens and like dealing damage or really just like accomplishing stuff. Yeah, so I guess he wasn't really shielding his team, so I guess in that particular scenario it wouldn't have mattered the time in which you would have killed him. But in other scenarios, you killing the Reinhardt for your diva is like the difference between getting like a 3-man bomb or like getting like a 0-man and then just killing the shield and that's it. Okay. So given the fact that you shoot shows that you're intending to build ult, because well, I guess it depends on what you want to do. Like if you want, once again, if you want to attack the backline, then don't shoot so you don't expose yourself. Secondly, if they turn on you, you can't get back to your team. Like if that's a hog and he managed to hit like an insane hook, or if it's like a Hanzo or something like that. Like as people go higher in elo, they tend to prefer snipers a lot more. And like they'll get actually like really solid at snipers. And if they were to headshot you there, then you don't have any cover or anything like that. You can't get back to your team at all. Yeah, so, generally, I don't know if you're, so I'm pretty sure, just from watching this, I'm pretty sure you have this, but if not, go to video, go to field of view, and turn it up to 103. Because that's going to essentially make you able to see as much as you possibly can, because I don't know if you had that in this particular VOD, well, you kind of only get, like, a little glimpse of him, but, you did see this, and so I guess that's, like, again, like a awareness error, which generally for me it helped to point out my awareness errors in my own like VOD reviewing of myself, but I don't know if it helps others. Hopefully it does. So just I guess that was an error where you could have been a bit more aware. That's fine. If you were a little bit closer, then you would have needed to double jump there. Okay, yeah, that looks like a rip on the. Okay, that's fine anyway. Like, you traded yourself for like the Zen and I think someone else, so that's okay. I think it was over.
On my way.
Use your Swift Strike out of spawn. Like, you not using your Swift Strike. Essentially, if you use it, you'll get it back in 8 seconds. But now that the fact you're like waiting to use it, the time that you're spending not using it is time that you're not getting another Swift Strike. Basically. Okay, and then you use it. Generally don't reflect when you're fighting a Sombra. That gives them a free hack, because essentially they're gonna try and hack you while they're fighting. Because if you get hacked, then the Sombra wins that matchup by default, provided their aim isn't just like complete garbage. But when you use deflect, you can't use your shurikens to interrupt her trying to hack you, and it's essentially a free hack for them. Yeah, it's just stalling. Stalling's pretty low skill until you get to like team play stalling, and that's kind of high skill stalling. But that's a different story.
The battle continues.
Yeah. So you really need to like identify moments in your gameplay where you're just sitting and doing nothing. Which, I mean, these moments are small, but they add up. Where you're like, you get here and you sit there and you don't throw any shurikens. You're not breaking the shield. You're not like hitting the enemy. You're essentially just having little actions for a second. Which, if you're matched up against like somebody else and it's like a really really close matchup, then they're gonna just take the dub, even if you were equal on skill and like you're just because you're not doing stuff in the moment. So here, you're getting low on health, so after escape, so that's fine. But the thing is, you're just not close to your healers at all. Your Ana can't see you is the biggest thing. That's a little risky popping blade with that health. Actually, let me rewatch this because you missed like several strikes. Yeah, once oh, you had to dodge the leader one. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I guess that's fine because you had to dodge the leader one. Just so you know, higher level players will not let you do this. Like these guys are basically like really, really bad, like in the fact that they let you do this. So you go here, and again, you're trying to flank, which this is once again time you could be spending shooting shurikens. Like given that, given that you don't, since you lost the previous team fight, you don't really have the luxury of the ability to set up. You kind of are just kind of given the cart here, and then your tanks are contesting it, and you're not really like helping your tanks at all because they're trying to fight off their front line. Essentially, you're not like helping them win their duels at this point. You're not really doing any damage or anything like that. So you're back here. The main thing I was wanting to point out. So first of all, this Sombra, if her awareness was not like really bad, would have seen you, and this Mei would have seen you as well had her awareness not been really bad. Like what is that wall doing for this mate? Like if you were a Widowmaker and you were right, like where you were, like if you were here and you were a Widowmaker, you would have killed that Sombra easily and you would have killed this Mei easily. So basically, as you get to the point where you fight players that aren't just gonna die to a Widowmaker for free, you have to be aware of things like this, where they're just not gonna like they're gonna see you. It's essentially, and you're not gonna have any cover. You would be forced to use your swift strike against these higher level opponents, and then you couldn't like use it for a duel or for fighting someone else. Okay, yeah, so that's fine because he was low on health.
冻住，不许走！
Yeah, so when you have to be aware of like what other like pretty much any angle that you don't have cover for, you have to be aware of it, and you have to be able to adapt to it. So the Zen is here, so turning on the Zen's fine, but if they turn on you, then the Zen has a crossing on you, and they have a crossing on you. So like even if you did have deflect and you deflected, then that's not gonna bail you out necessarily. So what you could do is you could walk forward a little bit and use this wall right here as some cover, and you would have been able to like dodge the Zen essentially, and you would have been able to keep poking. Oh, that guy's so low, nice. We need an 80 spam on all of them. That guy's also no. He's on here. So we talked about the deflect combo. That would be another scenario where you could just like, so you're fighting the Lucio, and like you, first of all, when you, I forgot whether or not you did right click, but if you didn't right click, then just remember to like right click, and then you managed to actually deflect some damage on him, which I didn't, but whatever, you would be able to do that once you deflected damage on him. So let me rewind that. So you're here. Just given the fact that you've deflected damage, just swift strike 180 melee, or 180 right click melee. And then there you go.
My ultimate is ready.
And you managed to get him off anyway, so that's fine. Or pick him off anyway. When fighting somebody like that, so first of all, Sombra has a like really thin hitbox anyway, so I think this thing lets you, so if you're against a Sombra, like if you're like far away from that, like I'm missing 3 or like 2 out of 3 shurikens. So Fiddle respawn. You want to get closer and try to essentially hit headshots. And also don't jump, because when you jump, you essentially give your opponent free like easy shots. The thing about Overwatch is your movement changes your velocity and not your acceleration. So I can just go from going like 5.5 meters per second to the left to 5.5 meters per second to the right instantly just by pressing the D key. Whereas like games like CS:GO or like Valorant or something like that, they're not gonna, it's not gonna be that easy necessarily. So you wanna like kind of abuse that. You like, this is really hard to hit. Like even if you're like a mechanically stellar player, like they would still be missing a lot of shots against like this kind of like movement. So you jumping is essentially a lot easier to hit than 80 spamming. And get closer to people when you take your duels, because you'll be able to hit more shurikens. Your Mercy using your pistol is such a bad decision there. Oh, that's... This guy's dead. Oh, yeah, you did what you said, that's fine. That guy's purple, nice.
You're powered up. Get in there.
That is a total waste of an ammo. It's a good decision not to use Blade, actually. Okay, so now you can use Blade because the Widow's no grapple, so that's fine. Yeah, that was a good decision to actually use Blade, like, when the Widow used grapple. That was a good decision. He's got Trans, so it's a good decision to back up. I don't know. The Ana's no nade, so that can kind of, yeah, so that's going to enable you to play a little bit more aggressive. Just when you're here, so this is actually another kind of position where you can actually, like the flank playstyle you've been kind of doing, this is like actually a pretty good position for it, because it's like, you can still take the cross angle, but it's like really easy to get back to your team. So you could just go right there, and you have that little thing right there for cover. I think their Widowmaker's dead still. You're just like in the very center of the choke. So you're, you don't have cover is the biggest problem with this. You essentially want to always be next to a piece of cover. So if you do need to retreat for something, you have that option. And preferably natural cover. Generally shields don't really cut it, but as you go higher level, the tanks will essentially be using their shields to enable natural cover more, and essentially their shielding is going to be more of like an augmentation of like natural cover rather than just with like 1600 points of block damage basically rather than that. And it's going to be more like a threat rather than like a quota at higher levels, but that's irrelevant. Basically, you first of all double jumping into this. So you double jump and then you use it to flex. So I guess that's fine. If you don't have to flex, then don't double jump against a widow though. Yeah, so there that double jump is not fine because it's an easy shot on this widow. Second of all, you're once again you're not in any cover at all, and you're essentially just really vulnerable being there. So you come around here and they click you basically. Yeah. So if you get low on health, just go back. Like you don't necessarily need to like always be in the back line. Like
My ultimate is charging.
let me rewatch this.
Is charging.
Yeah, I feel like this is bad from both you and the Mei. First of all, you, I mentioned earlier you don't want to be close to a Mei. You being this close to a Mei is like essentially free, freeze for her. So you, but they're just, like I said, they're essentially not punishing you for your mistake. So this guy's not looking at you, so that's a free shot. So that's fine. And then you've got your Diva with you, so and you've got your Mercy with you. So if you get frozen, then you'll get healed and you'll get Defense Matrix. So this is a scenario where if you wanted to try and get closer to Mei, and then like the closer you are, that you'll be able to deal more damage. Against Mei and against Reaper, there's a lot of threat to it. But since you have your team with you, they can negate that threat. So if you wanted to get closer, and that's Mei, you would be able to. This guy, yeah. Now that you weren't able to reflect damage, swift tracking away was the correct decision, so that's good. That's fine. Oh, there was okay, you're here. Yeah, so shooting at the shield as Genji really isn't ideal because it doesn't really help you build your Dragon Blade at all. So that flank spot I was talking about, where you could go to like the left and just take the off angle, that would be a lot more powerful here. It's a good bomb. Yeah, so this is you have to make sure you have enough health for your blade, and there's not really like any particular health where it's like, oh, this much health is too little or too much, but it's just like 89 I would say is too much or too little health, because like even the Lucio can duel you when you're at that little health, or at least like higher level Lucios would be able to. They'll just like boop you away and then they'll use your fallingness to land shots in.
30 seconds remaining.
Snail mail needs to pick it. There we go.
Register at your service.
So I know this was quick play, but if you were in like ranked or something, you would want to call that out to your team. The fact that the Reaper was right there, because that's like really threatening. Okay, so your team manages to deal with it, so that's good. And once again, I can't hear your comp, so I don't know what you are or not saying, but. Oh, you're so right. How low were you? So you're at 38 health. Honestly, I feel like just within this VOD, you're just not willing to like not be in the backline. Like you don't have to always be in the backline as Genji. Like taking off angles is good, and like sometimes going for flanks is good if you can set it up, and if it's a type of flank that you can get back to your team with. But you kind of have to know like what are you trying to accomplish with the flank. Like if it's a kill like a Widowmaker or something like that, then like sure. Or if they have like a Zen and it's like a free pick off, then sure. But you don't need to be in the backline just for the sake of being in the backline. So I guess if you were going to be in the backline more, I would say target Zen more, because that's really kind of the purpose of that playstyle. But you don't always have to be taking that playstyle. Right now, what's considered to be the most powerful playstyle as Genji is just getting your Dragon Blade off of tanks, and then using it, and then using the Dragon Blade to kill the squishies. Um, so I would probably say just like implement that into your gameplay when you need to, because you're at 38 health, and your decision is to jump. Well, the Lucio is low, but either way, it's like you can still spam the Lucio from that distance. So when you trade, and I guess you have spawn advantage, so I guess it benefits you, but either way, so.
The battle continues.
Also, use your Swift Strike when you get out of spawn, you can get along faster. Well, actually, these guys are close, so I guess that's probably the best is in the savior Swift Strike when I think of it. Okay, so things to work on from that VOD would be one, try to figure out any point where you're just not doing anything. Like if you're in a dive comp, like the dive meta, if a dive meta actually does come back and Genji is in it, then waiting for a dive is considered high actions per second. Where if you're just sitting there and you know that you're going to attack something once your Winston has an opportunity, then that does count as high actions per second. But if you don't have a purpose to not be shooting at something, then just shoot at stuff, basically. I think. So if your blade, when you dash to people, double jump beforehand, it makes it easier. You get more leeway, essentially, depending on how far away they are. Let me think. Try to incorporate the playstyle of just being able to build a Dragon Blade and then use a Dragon Blade to fight your enemies rather than necessarily using your shurikens every single time. There is a purpose for like the shurikens, the playstyle, but like I said, you have to have a purpose for it. Like if it's to kill a Widowmaker or a Zen or something easy like that, then like that's fine. But yeah, just make sure you always have a purpose for that. Try to know what your healers are and what means they have of healing you, and essentially use that to make determinations on what positions you can take. So like, if it's an Ana, you can stay pretty far away. You just have to be in her LOS. If it's a Zen, then you're pretty much going to get quite a bit of healing, depending on what elo Zen is. The higher elo you get, Zens will generally tend to pocket their DPS more, because that's the more powerful thing. And like, essentially what you notice is about like high level players is like the decisions that they make inherently are better because they're the ones that are able to carry their team more. Whereas like in low elo, they say, oh, we have to pocket the tanks, even though I have like armor and defense matrix and shields and higher health and things that make them more able to survive. So you're making them even more able to survive, which was already the purpose of them anyway. But that's irrelevant. We're here to talk about Genji, I guess. What else was in? Well, let me think back to what was going on. Okay, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest things from this VOD. I know you had mentioned interest in joining an Overwatch team. So I want to talk about the essentially like the roles that are going to be on an Overwatch team. So I had previously mentioned you would be expected to do the same thing every single time you go into scrims. So there are 6 roles on an Overwatch team. There's main tank, off tank. Let's pretend like I was just trying to draw a T and not a, or let me just erase that. Off tank, flex DPS, otherwise known as projectile DPS, what I call it. This is the correct, this is identified to be the correct term, flex DPS. I call it projectile because I'm OG. Other people are less OG than me. There's hit scan DPS, there's off support, and then there's main support. So the main tank will be expected to play the tank that controls the engagements on teams, which is going to be Reinhardt, Winston, Orisa. Ball is sometimes considered to be a main tank, sometimes considered to be an off tank. In this meta, in this meta, it's actually 2 off tanks, and I'm going to explain how that works in a little bit. So, and I'm going to explain why. So, the off tank would be essentially tanks that are like a damage tank hybrid and are generally specified to be more reliant on damage mitigation rather than actually dealing damage in the first place. So Zarya in so I'll just write them as a pairing. So Reinhardt and Zarya are generally paired together because Reinhardt essentially being a frontliner, people are going to want to break the shield, and if you have a Zarya, then as people are shooting at the shield, you can just bubble the Reinhardt and they'll get a lot of energy off of that, and that's going to enable your Reinhardt to walk to more like advanced positions and like different natural covers and things like that. And additionally, they have a lot of synergy in their ults generally because the Reinhardt can do a lot of cleave damage within. So with the Winston, the typical matchup is Diva, but I wrote it B Diva. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's Wrecking Ball, and within Ball, the matchup is also Diva. So with both of these, it's Diva, but sometimes with the Winston, you would play a Wrecking Ball as the off tank. The purpose of this, what Dive Comp wants to do is like isolate targets, is find essentially targets that are alone and then jump on them. Sometimes you can have a Winston and a Diva together and means that play more like a Death Ball than a Dive Comp because it's not necessarily jumping on somebody, but it's more just meant to like deal cleave damage and just kind of pressure angles, but not necessarily hard commit to anything. And I think you have like more of an escape that way. Depending on how all of this gets played out, also depends on the meta largely. So with Orisa, there's two matchups. There's Roadhog, which historically was a matchup, and then when Sigma got put into the game, essentially nullified the need for the Roadhog with the Orisa because the Sigma was just considered to be more powerful. The synergy between Orisa and Sigma is basically like you have the Halt and the Rock combo, which generally, in the Halt Hook combo is also there with Roadhog. So when you halt stuff, you can essentially combo it with some sort of damage ability, like snipers are strong for that, Hook is strong for that. The Sigma's Rock, I already mentioned that. But another one actually, weirdly enough, is Genji's Dragon Blade. I didn't actually know that for a while. I thought Genji and Orisa had terrible synergy until I learned that. And still not the best synergy, but if you're in ranked, you can pull it off. So in the modern meta, the meta is actually the off tank plays Sigma and the main tank plays Roadhog. And the reason the main tank plays Roadhog is, first of all, it requires knowing the history of the game. Basically, during the first meta, the meta was Reinhardt, Zarya, Roadhog, Soldier 76, Lucio, and Ana. Then Roadhog got nerfed a ton. People discovered that people had already kind of discovered Dive Comp was powerful, but people didn't really know the full extent of it. Then people started discovering the full extent of it, and then Diva and Roadhog got played eventually. But it was Diva and Winston for a long time, and then people discovered the power of Orisa and Roadhog, and then people essentially discovered if you put a Diva and a Roadhog together, you could place the Orisa with a Roadhog, and then they could control angles differently. It was basically more of like a strict counter to Dive Comp, but the point is that forced the main tank to learn Roadhog at some point. So because the off tank was always going to be on Diva, so it's like the off tank knew how to play Roadhog, but they were always going to be on Diva, so they had been training Diva like a lot, and that off tanks essentially evolved to be Diva mains for the most part on teams, and then that forced the main tank player to learn Roadhog, so the other guy didn't have to learn or re-pick up Roadhog and then like get the rust off of their Roadhog when they could be practicing Diva. Then you fast forward to the future, the GOATS meta happened, blah blah blah, 2-2 is forced, and then so there was a meta for a while where Orisa and Sigma were always meta, no matter what. Like if you played anything else, you were throwing, more or less. So the Sigma, and so the off tank would be on Sigma, and the main tank would be on Orisa. So then that is another reason why nowadays the off tank is on Sigma and not Roadhog, is because for the Orisa Sigma meta, they had been training Sigma a ton. So there's already like a Sigma specialist, and a lot of off tanks are going to be Roadhog specialists too. But given how the most recent meta had involved a ton of Sigma, and they had most recently been training Sigma, they would have the least rust on Sigma and be expected to play Sigma, whereas the main tank would have to learn Roadhog. Also, another reason for that is Sigma and Diva are considered to be like two of the hardest heroes in the game, and Zarya and Roadhog are typically considered to be easier characters from that. So generally, if any given person is going to be flexing to an off tank, it's going to be Zarya or Roadhog because they're considered to be easier than D.Va and Sigma. So gunning to flex DPS. So this is if you were going to play Genji, then you would want to go into flex DPS. So I guess I won't go into all of the metas that from the flex DPS perspective, but they would be expected to play Genji, Hanzo, Pharah, for some teams for whatever reason will expect you to play Junkrat even though he's the worst hero in the game. Logical teams won't expect you to play Junkrat because he's the worst hero in the game. He's been the worst hero in the game for like 2 years. They'll expect you to play Doomfist, however. Other characters that maybe aren't necessarily necessary, but will sometimes be expected. Widowmaker is generally a pretty good plus to your resume if you can play that in the flex DPS. Soldier is a good one. McCree, Sombra, in my opinion, is a good one. Reaper is another potential one because there's been a lot of double hit scan metas. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, Mei. Sometimes they'll expect you to play Mei. But yeah, some teams will expect their flex DPS player to be able to play every DPS in a game. Oh, another one I forgot was Ashe. I'll just start right here. So this would require playing quite a bit of heroes. You wouldn't necessarily have to main all of these heroes and be like a specialist at all of these heroes, or even really play every single one. But a lot of teams would want more of like a being able to play like tons and tons of heroes for the flex DPS position rather than being specialized at it. For hit scan, in my opinion, the most important thing on hit scan is they're good at Widow and they're good at Tracer. Because those are really the two hardest CPS in the game. So if they're like really, really good at that, then you're gonna be able to take your hit scan player pretty far. Certain metas won't require either, and then your hit scan player would be forced to play other things. Historically, Zarya was actually a very common one when it wasn't Tracer or Widow. When it went out of that particular meta, Reaper was another one where it was kind of common. Then Sombra was another one. Ashe was one. Some teams require their hit scan player to play Soldier and McCree. Like, I don't really think that's important, in my opinion, because generally the flex DPS player is going to be playing it. Because generally, if you run a Soldier, you're generally going to run the Tracer with it. Because like that's basic. I can get into why, but it's mainly just like a skirmish play style when you pick the Soldier in the first place. And then the McCree, I guess that's a bit more useful is to have the McCree because there have been metas where the hit scan player has been playing McCree. I guess is more common than the flex CPS. McCree historically hasn't really ever been like really. He's never been really good and he's never been really bad. So it's just kind of been around but never meta, but never like dead. I guess. I guess in a couple of points, but they didn't last very long. Anything else I'm forgetting? I don't think so. So off support can be defined as any support that has potential to detriment a team in any way, shape, or form. So that would be Zenyatta. Zenyatta has his Discord orb, so that counts. Anna has a lot of utility within the Sleep Dart and the Intonade. And then after that, some teams will require off support to play BAP. Some will require Mercy, depending on what the meta is. They're not really as much off supports, but they do kind of count. Some will require them to play Brig, depending on what the meta is. Regarding main support, this is generally the support that has the potential to peel for other teammates in ways that aren't necessarily healing. So, like, if you have a Zenyatta on your team, he's likely to get jumped. So if you're running, like, Winston D.Va, Tracer Sombra, and then that's all going to want to attack the backline. So if you have a Zenyatta, then he's kind of a sitting duck. So you could play a Brig in this position, or you could play a Lucio as another option. So the Brig essentially has a lot of brawl potential. So if somebody wants to take a close range duel with the Zen, they also have to take a close range duel with the Brig, which heals the Zen first of all, and second of all, it does damage to whatever is trying to jump it. Lucio can heal whatever this guy is playing. It's actually 50 per second, which is as much as Mercy if you put it on amp. If it's not on amp, then it's less. But you also get the option of being able to speed boost away, which is powerful, and you can boop people away. So Lucio essentially has the ability to control the distance of the engagement a little bit more than Brig, but I guess Brig has more brawl potential. Some will require them to play Mercy. Zen Mercy depends on the meta, but there has been Zen Mercy meta before, and that required the main support to play a lot of Mercy. And I would say Mercy probably has the least healing potential out of any main support. Well, I guess that's not inherently true. But yeah, I guess it was considered to be the weakest for a while, but the main reason you would pick Mercy is because of the damage boost. Some teams, since Mercy isn't a ton of healing, they'll pick an Ana with it, because if they want to negate spam, then they will want the Ana as well. And then they would also... Oh, BAP was the last one, so... some teams required a BAP. There was a short meta where the BAP and Zenyatta were meta, and then teams would be required to play BAP because of that. So that's essentially what teams look like if you're interested in joining them. And I guess that's it.